Something I've realized after I studied Chinese to fluency is that it's a very precise language. And you wouldn't really hear people typically saying a language is precise, but that's exactly what I think about when I learned it compared to English. To illustrate this point, because I know it's kind of a rare thing to call maybe a language precise, that's kind of a uncommon way to characterize a language, I'll illustrate it with an example first. So, if you're going to school in the US and it's the first day, the teacher doesn't know how to pronounce all the kids' names. The names are on the piece of paper on the class roster, but the teacher is unsure about a couple names. How do you pronounce them? And this might be because the parents decided to use a more obscure, less common name, so the teacher is not aware how to spell it. It could be because someone comes from a different culture and their name, when put in English letters, romanized, it's not readily apparent how that would be pronounced. The other side of that is also that you could say something verbally, but how you write that down on paper is not very obvious. For example, someone named Aaron, if you don't know if it's a male or female, you might say E-R-I-N or A-A-R-O-N. It's like what is that called? A homophone? So there's a lot of homophones, and Chinese has homophones too, but I'll get into that in a second. You're not exactly sure how to spell a person's name. Or someone named Ashley, there might be two different spellings for Ashley. So you have to verify, how do you spell that? How do you spell that? Whereas in Chinese, if there's a name that comes from a different culture, they are going to use Chinese characters as a transliteration, I think it would be called, of how to pronounce it. So for example, the President Biden, his name would be Biden. So it's just those two characters, Bai and Deng. Any Chinese person would know how to pronounce those. There's no ambiguity. They wouldn't have to wonder. Whereas maybe the president of a foreign country, someone in the US might see it on paper, but not know how to pronounce it because it's just not standardized at all. The A could be pronounced in a certain way. The E could be pronounced differently. There might be some weird consonants that you're not exactly sure when they're put in that order how to pronounce them. Whereas in Chinese, you see it on the paper, you know exactly how those characters are pronounced, and you're not going to make any mistakes. So that's kind of what I mean by precision, is that there's a lot less ambiguity about what is being said and what is being seen on paper. And another thing is, if in English, if you're gonna say how your name is spelled, you'll say like the letters, letter by letter. But there is a lot of homophones in Chinese, like I said. So how do you get around that? Is you would tell someone, for example, your name has the word, we'll say Ling in it, okay? You could say San Ling de Ling, okay? Because San Ling means like a forest, and you would say San Ling de Ling. So you're saying the Ling from the word San Ling, which means forest. So that removes the ambiguity. You would tell them specifically which character represents your name. And then when it's put down on paper, you're not going to have to worry about someone ever pronouncing it incorrectly, because that character has its certain pronunciation. And words do change based on the context occasionally. In certain situations, sometimes certain words, their pronunciation will change. But that is relatively rare, and it's normally in certain contexts that it always changes the same way. So there's not very much ambiguity when it comes to pronunciations. And it's a lot more straightforward. I like it because having a character be the basis for the language makes it so that there's a lot less ambiguity, because letters, you can throw in an extra letter here, remove an extra letter there, and then it would become a different meaning, different word. Whereas the meaning is encased within the Chinese character, and there's a lot less ambiguity. So that's just something, if you're a person who has a very, I guess, straightforward thinking, your brain is straightforward, you don't like a lot of ambiguity, I think it might work well with you to learn Chinese, because I feel like some other languages having those weird inconsistencies makes it a lot harder to learn. But Chinese is such a consistent language, things happen in a consistent way, that once you master certain rules, they don't change very much. So that's my 2 cents. If you do well with consistency, start learning Chinese, because I think you'll do great at it.